The shrill ring of my alarm clock jolted me awake at 5:30, just like every other morning. Except today wasn't like every other day, it was my 60th birthday. I hadn't expected much fanfare, but I'd at least thought my daughter would remember. The empty house told me otherwise. I shuffled to the bathroom, flicking on the light and wincing at my reflection. The years had etched themselves into the corners of my eyes and mouth. 60. The number felt heavy, significant. Not old exactly, but no longer young by any stretch of the imagination. I'd been a mother for almost 40 of those years. And for what? To wake up alone on my birthday, while my 22-year-old daughter was out who knows where. The night before, I'd dropped hints about a special breakfast. Nothing extravagant, just pancakes and coffee together, before I headed to my shift at the hospital. But when I'd knocked on Melissa's door at 5 this morning, there was no answer. Her bed was empty, still made from yesterday. She hadn't come home. Maybe. The flippant greeting made my jaw clench. I didn't leave a message. After 40 years as a nurse, I'd learned to swallow disappointment. I'd missed countless family gatherings, worked holidays, and sacrificed sleep for emergencies. But I'd never missed Melissa's birthdays, not a single one in 22 years. Even during my divorce from her father when she was 12, when I was working double shifts to keep our house, I'd still managed to bake her favorite chocolate cake and be there when she blew out the candles. I made a single pancake for myself, drizzled it with maple syrup, and ate standing at the kitchen counter. The house was too quiet. On the refrigerator, held by a magnet from our trip to Yellowstone 5 years ago, was a photo of Melissa and me, both smiling. She had my eyes warm brown with flecks of gold, but her father's stubborn chin. In the picture, she was 17, still living at home, still needing me. Now she was in her final year of college, living at home to save money. Though most nights she stayed at friends' apartments or her boyfriend Tyler's place. I saw her maybe once or twice a week, usually when she needed something, money for books, help with laundry, a home-cooked meal when she was tired of takeout. I rinsed my plate and placed it in the dishwasher, then grabbed my purse and keys. The early morning air was crisp as I walked to my 10-year-old Honda. Another day, another shift. At least my colleagues might remember my birthday. Happy birthday, Eleanor. Nurse Jacqueline greeted me as I entered the nurse's station. Her smile was genuine, her eyes crinkling at the corners. At 65, she was 5 years older than me and showed no signs of slowing down. The big 6. Oh, huh. Welcome to the club. Thanks, Jackie. I hung my coat in my locker and tied my graying hair back into its usual practical bun. It's just another day. Nonsense. We're celebrating. I brought cupcakes for lunch break. I felt a lump form in my throat. That's really sweet of you. What's Melissa doing for you? Taking you to dinner? I busied myself checking patient charts. She has plans tonight. We'll celebrate this weekend probably. Jackie's silence spoke volumes. She'd known me for 15 years, had seen me through my divorce, through Melissa's rebellious teenage years, through my mother's death. She knew when I was hiding disappointment. Well, her loss, Jackie finally said, patting my shoulder. More cupcakes for us. The morning passed in a blur of medication rounds, vital checks, and doctor consultations. I was assigned to the pediatric ward today, which I usually loved. The children, despite their illnesses, had a resilience that inspired me. Today, though, their innocent questions stung more than usual. How old are you, Nurse Ellie? Asked 7-year-old Zoe, who was recovering from appendicitis. I'm 60 today, sweetheart. Her eyes widened. Wow, that's really old. Did you get lots of presents? I forced a smile. The day's not over yet. Around noon, my phone buzzed with a text message. My heart leapt, hoping it was Melissa, but it was my sister Catherine. Happy 60th, sis. Hope Melissa is spoiling you rotten. Call me tonight, X. I typed back a quick thanks, but didn't mention Melissa. Catherine lived 3 states away and had her own busy life with 3 kids and 5 grandchildren. I didn't want her worrying about me being alone on my birthday. By 2 o'clock, I'd checked my phone at least a dozen times. Nothing from Melissa. I tried not to take it personally. She was young, busy with school and friends. But the ache in my chest wouldn't subside. During my break, I scrolled through Instagram, something I rarely did. Melissa had posted a story 4 hours ago, a boomerang of clinking champagne glasses with the caption, "Best night ever," followed by party emojis. The timestamp showed 3:15 a.m. So that's where she'd been. Partying all night while I slept alone, waking up to an empty house on my 60th birthday. I closed the app and put my phone away, fighting back tears. This wasn't the time or place to fall apart. I had patients who needed me. When my shift ended at 4, I drove home slowly, half hoping Melissa's car would be in the driveway. It wasn't. The house was just as empty as I'd left it that morning. I changed out of my scrubs into comfortable sweats and made myself a cup of tea. The silence pressed in around me. 60 years old. And what did I have to show for it? A successful career, yes. A house that was almost paid off. But my marriage had failed, and my only child couldn't be bothered to remember my birthday. The doorbell rang, startling me. For a moment, hope flared. Maybe Melissa had forgotten her key, or maybe she'd planned a surprise after all. But when I opened the door, it was my neighbor, Mrs. Patel, holding a small potted orchid. "Happy birthday, Eleanor," she said, her smile warm. "I remembered you mentioning it last week when we were both getting the mail." "Oh, Indira, that's so thoughtful of you." I accepted the plant, genuinely touched. "Please, come in for a moment." She stepped inside, glancing around. "Is Melissa not home? I thought she might have planned something for you." "She's busy today. College keeps her running around." The lie tasted bitter. Mrs. Patel nodded, but her eyes held understanding. She was a widow whose own children lived across the country. We'd formed a friendship over the years, checking in on each other during storms, collecting each other's mail during vacations, sharing occasional meals. "Well, 60 is a milestone," she said. "You should celebrate, even if it's just treating yourself to something special." After she left, I placed the orchid on my kitchen windowsill and stared at it for a long moment. Mrs. Patel was right. I deserved to celebrate, with or without Melissa. I grabbed my purse and keys again, and drove to the mall. I rarely shopped for myself, always putting Melissa's needs first: her college tuition, her car insurance, her phone bill. Today, I decided, would be different. I bought myself a cashmere sweater I'd been eyeing for months but had deemed too expensive. I got a haircut at the salon, the stylist trimming my shoulder-length gray hair into a more flattering, modern bob. I even splurged on a makeover at the cosmetics counter, the young woman showing me how to apply makeup that enhanced rather than tried to hide my age. "You have beautiful skin," she told me. "And those cheekbones. You don't need to cover up. Just enhance what you have." Looking in the mirror afterward, I hardly recognized myself. The woman staring back at me looked confident, sophisticated. 60, yes, but not diminished by it. On impulse, I stopped at a nice restaurant on the way home and asked for a table for one. The hostess didn't bat an eye, leading me to a small table by the window. I ordered a glass of wine and the salmon special, savoring each bite. When the waiter discovered it was my birthday, he brought me a slice of chocolate cake with a single candle. "Make a wish," he said. I closed my eyes and wished for courage. Courage to stop letting Melissa's neglect hurt me so deeply. Courage to live my life for myself. By the time I arrived home, it was after 8. Melissa's car was in the driveway, and lights were on in the house. I took a deep breath before going inside, unsure what to expect. Melissa was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She looked up when I entered, her eyes widening slightly at my new appearance. "Whoa, Mom. You look different." I treated myself to a makeover. "It's my birthday, after all." Her face fell. "Your birthday? That's today?" The fact that she had to ask sent a sharp pain through my chest. "Yes, Melissa. I'm 60 today." "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. She jumped up from the couch. I totally forgot. I was out with friends last night, and then I crashed at Tyler's, and I had classes all day. It's fine. I set my shopping bags down. I had a nice day anyway. We can go out tomorrow night. Anywhere you want. My treat. That would be nice. I kept my voice neutral, not wanting to reveal how deeply her forgetfulness had hurt me. I really am sorry, Mom. She came over and gave me a quick hug. Happy birthday. You look really pretty, by the way. Thank you. I returned her hug, inhaling the familiar scent of her shampoo. Despite everything, I loved her fiercely. She pulled back, already reaching for her phone again. I'm gonna order you a cake right now, have it delivered tomorrow. What kind do you want? Anything is fine. I picked up my bags. I'm going to put these away and get ready for bed. I had an early shift today. Okay. Love you, Mom. Love you too. In my bedroom, I carefully hung up my new sweater and placed my new makeup on the vanity. The woman in the mirror still looked confident, but her eyes held sadness now. 60 years. Nearly 40 as a mother. And what had it gotten me? A daughter who forgot my birthday to party with friends, who lived in my house but was rarely present, who took my sacrifices for granted. As I got ready for bed, I heard Melissa on the phone in the living room, laughing about something with one of her friends. Not a care in the world. Why would she? She had never known true hardship because I had always shielded her from it. Maybe that had been my mistake. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the birthdays I'd made special for Melissa over the years. The unicorn-themed party when she was 6. The surprise Sweet 16 with all her friends. The weekend trip to Chicago for her 21st. And in return? Not even a text message on my 60th. Something shifted inside me that night. A resolve hardened. I had spent decades putting Melissa first, her needs, her wants, her dreams. Perhaps it was time she learned that relationships required reciprocity, that my love and support weren't limitless resources to be tapped without thought or gratitude. The next morning, I woke before Melissa and left a note on the kitchen counter. Working double shift today. Don't wait up. It wasn't true. I had the day off, but I needed space to think. I drove to the beach, a place I'd always found solace. The October air was chilly, but I wrapped myself in a blanket and sat on the sand, watching the waves crash against the shore. 60 years of memories washed over me, ebbing and flowing like the tide. I remembered holding newborn Melissa in my arms, her tiny fingers wrapped around mine. I remembered teaching her to ride a bike, bandaging skinned knees, helping with homework. I remembered the painful years of my divorce, how I'd worked so hard to keep Melissa's life stable while mine fell apart. And I remembered more recent years, Melissa's increasing distance, her irritation when I asked about her life, her expectation that I would always be there when she needed something, but her absence when I might need her. My phone buzzed with a text from her. Cake ordered, delivery at 6, dinner reservations at 7:30 at that Italian place you like. See you tonight. Cake ordered. Too little, too late, I thought, then immediately felt guilty. She was trying to make amends. Wasn't that what mattered? But as I sat there longer, watching an elderly couple walk hand in hand along the shoreline, I realized that what hurt most wasn't Melissa forgetting my birthday. It was the pattern it represented, her taking me for granted, assuming I would always forgive, always understand, always put her first. And I had. Every single time. The couple stopped near me, the man spreading a blanket, while the woman unpacked a small picnic. They moved with the comfortable synchronicity of people who had spent decades together. The woman caught me watching and smiled. Beautiful day, isn't it? She called. I nodded. Perfect. We come here every Thursday, she said, our little tradition since we retired. That's lovely, I replied, feeling a pang of envy for their shared ritual. Do you live nearby? The man asked. About 20 minutes away. I don't come here as often as I'd like. Well, you should, the woman said. Life's too short not to do the things you love. Their simple wisdom stayed with me, as I drove home later that afternoon. Life was indeed too short to be taken for granted, too short to keep giving without receiving, too short to let disappointment become my default emotion with my only child. I arrived home at 5, giving myself time to shower and change before Melissa's planned dinner. The house was quiet, she wasn't home yet. Probably still at Tyler's or with friends. As I dressed in a new outfit I'd bought during yesterday's shopping spree, I made a decision. Tonight, I would have an honest conversation with Melissa. Not accusatory, not angry, but truthful about how her behavior affected me. And then I would tell her about the changes I planned to make, changes that might surprise her, might even upset her, but that I needed for my own well-being. Because the best gift I could give myself for my 60th birthday wasn't a sweater or a haircut or even a cake. It was the courage to finally put myself first. I sat at my vanity, applying the makeup techniques I'd learned yesterday. The doorbell rang just as I was finishing my lipstick, a bold mauve shade I'd never have chosen before. The cake delivery. Right on time. I heard Melissa's footsteps thundering down the stairs, followed by the front door opening and her cheerful, "Thank you." A moment later, her voice called up to me, "Mom, cake's here." Taking a deep breath, I stood and smoothed down my new outfit, slim black pants and a silky emerald blouse that brought out the green flecks in my brown eyes. The woman in the mirror looked elegant, composed, ready for whatever the evening might bring. Downstairs, Melissa was opening the cake box on the kitchen counter. She looked up as I entered, her eyes widening slightly. "Wow, Mom. You look amazing." "Thank you." I approached to examine the cake, chocolate with vanilla frosting, decorated with "Happy 60th Birthday, Eleanor" in elegant script. It was beautiful, and clearly expensive. Part of me softened at her effort, while another part wondered why it had taken forgetting my birthday entirely to prompt such a gesture. "Do you like it?" Anxiety tinged her voice. "I got it from that fancy bakery downtown, the one we passed last month when you said their window display looked good." I was surprised she'd remembered that casual comment. "It's lovely, Melissa. Thank you." She beamed, relieved. "Great. I thought we could have some after dinner. Our reservation is at 7:30, so we should leave in about 45 minutes. Is that okay?" "That's fine." I leaned against the counter, studying my daughter. In her jeans and oversized sweater, hair pulled into a messy bun, she looked younger than her 22 years. There were dark circles under her eyes, remnants of her late night out, no doubt. Alone in the kitchen, I ran my finger along the edge of the cake box. This was Melissa's pattern: mess up, then make a grand gesture to compensate. She'd been doing it since childhood. Break a vase while running in the house? Return with a handful of wildflowers. Forget to do her chores? Suddenly prepare dinner unprompted. Miss curfew? Show up with coffee and donuts the next morning. The gestures were always thoughtful, always just enough to earn forgiveness, and I had always forgiven her, always accepted the peace offerings without addressing the underlying behavior. What kind of adult was I helping her become? 40 minutes later, Melissa clattered back downstairs in a dress and heels, her hair now styled, makeup applied. She looked beautiful, and for a moment I saw myself at her age, full of confidence and possibilities, the world spread out before me. "Ready?" she asked, grabbing her purse and car keys. "Actually, I'd prefer to drive myself." The words came out before I'd fully formed the thought. She frowned. "Why? We're going to the same place." "I know. But I might want to go somewhere after dinner." This wasn't what I'd planned to say, but suddenly, the idea of having my own transportation, my own agency in the evening, felt important. "Like where?" "It's a Thursday night." Confusion and a hint of annoyance crossed her face, but she shrugged. "Okay, whatever. See you there." We drove separately to Marcello's, an upscale Italian restaurant downtown. Melissa had arrived just before me and was already speaking to the hostess when I walked in. "Reservation for 2 under Williams," she was saying. She turned as I approached, smiling. "Right on time." The hostess led us to a corner table, intimate and well-positioned. Melissa had clearly requested a good spot, another point in her favor. After we ordered drinks, a glass of Chianti for me, water for Melissa who was driving, she leaned forward eagerly. So, how does it feel to be 60? I considered the question seriously. Different than I expected. When I was your age, I thought 60 was ancient. Now that I'm here, I realize it's just another stage of life. I have more perspective, more wisdom, but I still feel like myself inside. She nodded, though I could tell the philosophical answer wasn't what she'd expected. Well, you look great. That new haircut really suits you. Thank you. I took a sip of my wine. How are your classes going this semester? And just like that, we slipped into our usual dynamic, me asking questions about her life, her answering at length, her marketing professor who didn't understand social media, her group project partners who weren't pulling their weight, Tyler's plans to apply for a job in Seattle after graduation. Seattle? This caught my attention. That's quite far. She shrugged, breaking off a piece of bread. It's only a 3-hour flight, and the tech industry there is booming. Tyler thinks he could double his starting salary compared to here. And what would you do in Seattle? I asked carefully. Go with him, obviously. There are marketing jobs everywhere. She said it casually, as if moving across the country with her boyfriend of 8 months was the most natural plan in the world. I see. I kept my voice neutral. And have you discussed this plan with Tyler in detail? Housing costs in Seattle are extremely high. Would you live together? She rolled her eyes. Mom, we practically live together now. And we'd figure out the money part. Lots of people our age move to expensive cities. Yes, often with financial help from their parents, I pointed out. Is that what you're expecting? Her cheeks flushed. I wasn't asking for money. God, why do you always assume the worst? I'm not assuming anything. I'm asking practical questions about a major life decision you just mentioned. The waiter arrived with our entrees, temporarily diffusing the tension. I'd ordered the salmon, Melissa, the fettuccine alfredo. We ate in silence for a few minutes. I'm sorry, she finally said. I didn't mean to snap. The Seattle thing is still just an idea. Tyler hasn't even applied for jobs yet. I nodded, deciding to let it go for now. This dinner was supposed to be a belated birthday celebration, not an interrogation about her future plans. So, she said brightly, clearly wanting to change the subject. I was thinking maybe this weekend we could go shopping? You seem to be updating your look, and I could help you pick out some more things. The offer was sweet on the surface, but something in her tone grated on Mez. If at 60, I needed my 22-year-old daughter's guidance to dress myself properly. Actually, I've been thinking about taking a trip this weekend, I said. A trip? Where? Melissa's fork paused halfway to her mouth. This weekend? But I thought we could hang out, make up for me missing your birthday. We're doing that now, I pointed out. And Catherine wants to celebrate my birthday too. Can't you go next weekend instead? My schedule at the hospital is already set. This weekend works best. This was true, though I'd only decided on the trip moments ago. She frowned. But what about me? I was counting on doing laundry at home this weekend, and I'm almost out of meal prep containers. There it was, the assumption that my plans should revolve around her convenience, that my home was primarily a service center for her needs. She stared at me as if I'd suggested she climb Mount Everest. But it's so expensive to do laundry in the dorm, and I don't have a car on campus during the week to go to Target. Why are you being like this? Her voice rose slightly. It's like you're punishing me for forgetting your birthday. I set down my fork and looked directly at her. I'm not punishing you, Melissa. I'm making plans that work for me, just like you do all the time. That's not fair. I have school and work and I have a full-time job and a life of my own, I interrupted gently. I'm not saying you can't do laundry at home. I'm saying you'll need to figure it out without me there, just like you'll need to figure out laundry in Seattle if you move there. She fell silent, pushing pasta around her plate. I could see her mind working, trying to process this subtle shift in our relationship. Is this about me forgetting your birthday? She finally asked, her voice smaller. Because I said I was sorry. I got the cake, made these reservations. It's not just about the birthday, though that was certainly disappointing. I took a deep breath. It's about a pattern, Melissa. You live at home to save money, but you're rarely there. When you are home, it's usually because you need something: laundry, food, money. You make plans without considering how they might affect me. You forgot my 60th birthday entirely. Her eyes filled with tears. So you are mad about the birthday? And yes, it made me realize some things need to change between us. What things? Wariness crept into her voice. The waiter approached to check on us, and we both forced smiles until he left. For starters, I continued quietly, if you're going to continue living at home, I need you to contribute more, not just financially, but to the household itself. Regular chores, occasional cooking, being present for family meals at least twice a week. Her mouth opened in protest, but I held up a hand. I'm not finished. I also want you to understand that I'm entering a new phase of my life. I've spent 40 years putting everyone else first: patients at the hospital, your father during our marriage, you throughout your childhood and beyond. Now I want to focus more on myself, my interests, my friendships, my future. Your future? She looked bewildered. You're 60. The casual ageism stung. Yes, and I could easily live another 25 or 30 years. That's a lot of future to plan for. She flushed. I didn't mean it like that. I just meant, I don't know, I guess I never thought about you having life goals at this point. That's exactly my point. You see me as mom, not as Eleanor Williams, a woman with her own identity and desires. She looked genuinely confused now. Okay, so, what are your life goals then? It was a fair question. Until recently, I might have struggled to answer it myself. But my birthday revelation had clarified things for me. I want to travel more. I want to take art classes. I used to love painting before I got busy with marriage and motherhood. I want to renovate parts of the house that have been neglected. I might even consider dating again. Her eyes widened at the last part. Dating? Seriously? Why is that surprising? I've been divorced for 10 years, Melissa. That's a long time to be alone. I never thought you were interested in that anymore. She looked uncomfortable. Isn't it hard to date at your age? I imagine it has challenges, just like dating at any age does. I kept my voice even, though her assumptions irritated me. The point is, I'm making changes in my life, and that will affect you too. Especially if you continue living at home. She was quiet for a long moment, absorbing this. So what exactly are you saying? You want me to move out? I'm saying I want our relationship to be more balanced. I want you to see me as a complete person with my own needs and boundaries. And yes, I want you to take more responsibility for yourself, whether you continue living at home or not. The waiter returned to clear our plates and offer dessert. We both declined, the conversation having dampened our appetites. We still have cake at home, Melissa reminded me, her voice subdued. Yes, we do. I smiled, trying to lighten the mood slightly. And I'm looking forward to it. The drive home was silent, each of us in our separate cars with our separate thoughts. As I followed Melissa's taillights through the familiar streets, I felt a mixture of emotions: guilt for upsetting her, anxiety about changing our dynamic, but also a growing sense of liberation. At home, Melissa went straight to the kitchen and began preparing the cake, her movements stiff. I watched from the doorway as she placed 2 candles on Ida 6 and a 0 and lit them carefully. Make a wish, she said, echoing the waiter from yesterday, though her tone lacked his cheerfulness. I closed my eyes briefly, then blew out the candles. My wish remained the same. Courage. What did you wish for? She asked, cutting generous slices for each of us. If I tell you, it won't come true, I said, accepting a plate from her. We sat at the kitchen table, eating cake that neither of us seemed to truly want anymore. So when are you leaving for Denver? She asked finally. Tomorrow afternoon. I already texted Catherine, and she's thrilled. That was fast. A hint of accusation colored her words. Sometimes spontaneity is good for the soul. She poked at her cake. And when will you be back? Sunday evening. It's just a quick visit. She nodded, then set down her fork. Mom, I really am sorry about forgetting your birthday. It was selfish and thoughtless. Thank you, I appreciate that. Seeing you as a person, not just my mom. She looked up, meeting my eyes. I don't want you to think I don't care about you. I do. I just get caught up in my own stuff sometimes. I know you do. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. That's part of being young, but it's also part of growing up to recognize when you're being self-centered. She winced at the word, self-centered, but didn't argue. Progress, perhaps. So, what should I do while you're gone? About the laundry and stuff? Whatever you'd do if you lived on your own, I said simply. Figure it out. She looked like she wanted to protest, but thought better of it. Okay. I guess I can use the laundromat near Tyler's apartment. That sounds like a good solution. We finished our cake in silence. As I rinsed our plates and put them in the dishwasher, Melissa leaned against the counter, watching me. Mom? Were you serious about the dating thing? I turned to face her. Yes, I was. Does that bother you? She shrugged, looking uncomfortable. I don't know. It's weird to think about. You haven't dated anyone since Dad. There were a few men over the years. I corrected her. I just didn't introduce you to them because the relationships weren't serious. Her eyes widened. Really? I had no idea. There are probably a lot of things about me you don't know, Melissa. That's my point. You see me as one-dimensional, just your mother. But I'm much more complex than that. She looked at me as if truly seeing me for the first Timino as the backdrop to her life, but as the main character in my own story. I guess I never thought about it that way, she admitted. It's kind of hard to imagine your parents as, regular people with their own stuff going on. I understand that, but I'm asking you to try. She nodded slowly. I will. Then, after a pause, so are you seeing someone specific or just thinking about dating in general? Just thinking about it for now. I hadn't actually planned to start dating immediately, but the idea had taken root since I'd voiced it at dinner. Why not? 60 wasn't too old to find companionship, maybe even love. Well, if you do start dating, just be careful, okay? There are a lot of creeps online. I couldn't help but laugh at her concern. I've been managing creeps since before you were born, Melissa, but thank you for your concern. She smiled sheepishly. Right. Sorry. I need to pack tomorrow before my flight. Okay. She hesitated, then stepped forward and gave me a hygge, real one this time, not the quick, distracted embraces I'd grown accustomed to. Happy belated birthday, Mom. I love you. I love you too. I held her for a moment, remembering when she was small enough to carry, when her whole world revolved around me. That was the natural order of things, children growing up, moving away, building their own lives. I had just let it happen without ensuring I was building my own life too. That would change now. Upstairs, I packed a small suitcase for the weekend, then sat on the edge of my bed, processing the evening. The conversation with Melissa had gone better than I'd feared, but not as well as I'd hoped. She'd listened, even acknowledged some of her behavior, but I wasn't sure how deeply she understood what I was trying to say. Real change would take time. And consistency on my part. Couldn't lay down boundaries one day, then abandon them the next when faced with her disappointment or inconvenience. As I got ready for bed, I heard Melissa on the phone in her room, her voice drifting through the wall. Just being weird since her birthday. Talking about dating and taking art classes and stuff. I know, right? No. I apologized like a million times. Yeah, we're still going to Seattle if you get the job. I don't know, she'll get over it. I closed my bathroom door, blocking out her voice. Some lessons couldn't be taught through conversation alone. Sometimes people needed to experience consequences to truly understand. And Melissa was about to experience some consequences she'd never forget. Denver greeted me with crisp mountain air and Catherine's warm embrace at the airport. My older sister by 3 years, she'd aged gracefully, her silver hair cut in a stylish bob, similar to my new haircut, laugh lines framing her bright eyes. "Look at you," she exclaimed, holding me at arm's length. "You've got a glow about you. 60 suits you, little sister." "It's the new haircut," I said, self-consciously touching the ends. "More determined." I smiled. Catherine had always been able to read me better than anyone. "I've had some revelations lately." About? About how I've been living my life. About Melissa. About what I want for my future. She raised an eyebrow. "This sounds promising. Tell me everything over lunch. I know a place with a view that'll take your breath away." The restaurant sat on a cliff overlooking the Rockies, the October sun illuminating the snow-capped peaks. Over grilled trout and white wine, I told Catherine everything: Melissa forgetting my birthday, my shopping spree, our dinner conversation, and my plans to establish new boundaries. "It's about damn time," Catherine said when I finished. "I've been telling you for years that you coddle that girl too much." "You have not," I protested. "Maybe not in those exact words, but I've hinted. Strongly." She took a sip of wine. "Remember when she was in high school and crashed your car? You bought her a new one, 3 months later. That was different. She needed transportation for her internship. She could have taken the bus like every other teenager without a car, or gotten a job to help pay for it." Catherine shook her head. "Don't get me wrong, Melissa is a wonderful young woman in many ways. She's smart, she's ambitious, but she's also spoiled, Eleanor, and that's on you." The blunt assessment stung, but I couldn't deny the truth in it. I know. I was trying to compensate for the divorce, for her father's absence. I wanted to make her life easier than mine had been. "And now you have a 22-year-old who thinks the world revolves around her." Catherine's tone softened. "But it's not too late to course correct. I'm proud of you for setting boundaries. Just be prepared she's not going to like it." "She already doesn't," I admitted. "You should have seen her face when I told her to figure out her own laundry situation." Catherine laughed. "Oh, the horror of adult responsibilities." We spent the rest of the day exploring downtown Denver, Catherine showing me her favorite shops and cafes. It felt liberating to focus on enjoyment rather than obligations, to be Eleanor the woman rather than Eleanor the mother or Eleanor the nurse. That evening, in Catherine's guest room, I checked my phone for the first time since landing. 3 texts from Melissa. "Made it to campus safe. Tyler's roommate is being annoying, so I might come home tonight after all. Never mind, staying at Emma's. Her washing machine is free." No questions about my flight, no wishes for a good visit with Catherine. Just updates about her own situation, with the subtle dig about finding an alternative laundry solution. I texted back simply, "Glad you worked it out. Having a wonderful time with Catherine. Good night." Then I turned off my phone and slept better than I had in months. The weekend passed in a blur of sisterly conversations, mountain hikes, and wine-fueled reminiscences. Catherine had built a full life after her divorce, 15 years ago, a successful career as an architect, a wide circle of friends, even a romantic partner, though they maintained separate households. "I like my space," she explained over breakfast Sunday morning. "Richard does too. We see each other 3 or 4 times a week, travel together occasionally, but we both need our independence." "That sounds ideal, actually," I admitted. "I'm not sure I could live with someone again. I've grown accustomed to my own routines." "Exactly. And you don't have to follow some prescribed relationship model. Create what works for you." She refilled my coffee cup. "Speaking of creating what works for you, have you thought more about what changes you want to make with Melissa?" I nodded. "I'm going to give her 2 options when I get home. Either she starts contributing financially and practically to the household, or she moves back to campus full-time. And if she chooses to stay? Rent, $300 a month. Weekly chores. Family dinner twice a week. No more treating the house like a hotel. Catherine whistled low. She's going to flip. Probably. But it's what I should have done years ago. Better late than never. She raised her coffee mug in a toast. To boundaries. I clinked my mug against hers. To boundaries. My flight home that evening was delayed by weather, so I didn't arrive until after midnight. The house was dark when I let myself in, but Melissa's shoes by the door indicated she was home. I quietly made my way upstairs, not wanting to wake her. As I passed her room, I noticed light seeping under her door and heard her voice. She was on the phone despite the late hour. I paused, not intending to eavesdrop, but then I heard my name. Don't know what's gotten into her lately, Melissa was saying. She's acting like I'm some freeloader or something. Yeah, exactly. It's not like I don't have a meal plan on campus. I just prefer real food sometimes. I know, right? After everything I do around here. I stood frozen, my suitcase still in hand. Everything she did around here? What exactly did she think she contributed to the household? Probably just going through some midlife crisis or whatever. 60 is like the new 40, so maybe it's a delayed reaction. She laughed at her own joke. I felt heat rise in my cheeks. A midlife crisis? Was that how she interpreted my attempt to reclaim my life, to be seen as more than just her support system? I know your place is small, but it would just be until we figure out the Seattle thing. So that was her backup plan: impose on her friends, rather than accept adult responsibilities. The revelation shouldn't have surprised me, but somehow it still hurt. I continued to my room, setting down my suitcase more forcefully than intended. The thud must have alerted Melissa to my presence because her voice suddenly dropped to a whisper, then fell silent. I unpacked methodically, hanging up clothes and placing toiletries back in their proper places, trying to process what I'd overheard. It confirmed what I'd suspected. Melissa saw my boundary setting as unreasonable, as some sort of age-related crisis, rather than a legitimate need for change. Well, she was in for a surprise. The next morning, I was up early as usual, preparing for my shift at the hospital. Melissa stumbled into the kitchen around 9, still in pajamas, her hair a tangled mess. "Oh, you're back," she said, yawning. "How is Denver?" "Wonderful. Catherine sends her love." I poured a cup of coffee and handed it to her, a motherly gesture I'd performed thousands of times. "Thanks." She took a long sip. "Did your flight get in late? I didn't hear you come home." "After midnight." "I heard you were still awake, though." A flicker of awareness crossed her face. "Oh. Yeah, I was talking to Emma." I let the lie hang in the air between us, not bothering to correct her. "We need to have a conversation, Melissa. About your living situation." She immediately tensed. "What about it?" "I've been thinking about what I said before I left about needing our relationship to be more balanced. I've decided that if you want to continue living here, there need to be some changes." "What kind of changes?" Wariness crept into her voice. "First, you'll need to contribute financially. $300 a month in rent." Her jaw dropped. "Rent? Are you serious? I'm your daughter, not some tenant." "Yes. You're my adult daughter who works part-time and chooses to live at home rather than on campus where you've already paid for housing. $300 is well below market rate for a room in this area. But that's like half my paycheck from the campus bookstore. Then, perhaps you should reconsider your spending habits. Or pick up more hours." I kept my voice calm, though my heart was racing. This confrontation was decades overdue. "I can't believe this," she muttered. "What else?" "Regular chores, not just when you feel like helping out. Weekly laundry duty, kitchen cleanup after dinner, bathroom cleaning, grocery shopping at least once a month." She stared at me as if I'd suggested she climb Mount Everest barefoot. "I don't have time for all that. I have classes, homework, my job, my friends." Somehow millions of college students manage to clean their own living spaces while balancing those same responsibilities, I pointed out. "And finally, I want you to commit to family dinner at least twice a week. Real conversation, no phones. This is insane. She set down her coffee cup with a thud. You're acting like I'm some horrible daughter who takes advantage of you. I don't think you're horrible, Melissa. I think you're a young adult who's never been asked to fully participate in running a household. That's my failure as much as yours. But it's time for that to change. And if I don't agree to these demands? I met her gaze steadily. Then you'll need to move back to campus full-time, where you've already paid for housing and a meal plan. I can't believe you're doing this. Her voice cracked slightly. Is this still about the birthday thing? Because I apologized for that. I got you a cake, took you to dinner. This isn't about my birthday, though that was certainly a symptom of the larger issue. This is about creating a healthier relationship between us. One where we both give and take. Or maybe I'll move in with Emma and Justin. They said I could stay with them if I needed to. The eavesdropped conversation confirmed. That's your choice to make. But I think you should consider whether running away from adult responsibilities is really the best decision for your future. This isn't about adult responsibilities, she shot back, making air quotes with her fingers. This is about you suddenly deciding to change all the rules because you're having some kind of midlife awakening or whatever. There it was, the dismissive attitude I'd overheard last night. I felt a surge of anger but kept my voice level. So what am I supposed to do? Just magically come up with $300 a month? You figure it out, just like every other adult does. Budget. Work more hours. Cut unnecessary expenses. She glared at me, tears of frustration welling in her eyes. I can't believe you're doing this to me. I'm not doing anything to you. I'm doing something for myself. I glanced at the clock. I need to leave for my shift. You have until the end of the month to decide what you want to do, stay with the new arrangements or move out. That's 3 weeks to figure it out. I grabbed my purse and keys, pausing at the kitchen doorway. Melissa, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to help both of us grow into a healthier relationship. She didn't respond, didn't even look at me. With a sigh, I left for work, the confrontation replaying in my mind as I drove. Had I been too harsh? Too sudden with these changes? Maybe. But sometimes a clean break was better than a prolonged, painful transition. And Melissa needed to understand that actions are, in the case of my birthday, inaction had consequences. At the hospital, I tried to focus on my patients, but Melissa's angry face kept intruding on my thoughts. By lunchtime, I checked my phone, half expecting apologetic texts or missed calls. There were none. Family drama? Jackie asked, noticing my preoccupation as we ate in the break room. Just setting some long-overdue boundaries with Melissa. Jackie nodded approvingly. Good for you. That girl has had it too easy for too long. That's what Catherine said too. Smart women, your sister and I. Jackie winked. Stand your ground, Eleanor. It'll be better for both of you in the long run. When I arrived home that evening, the house was empty. Melissa's car was gone, and so was her laptop from the kitchen table, where she usually studied. I tried not to worry, she was an adult. After all, but the mother in me couldn't help wondering where she'd gone, if she was safe. I made a simple dinner for myself and ate at the kitchen island, scrolling through a local art school's website on my tablet. They offered evening painting classes for adults, something I'd mentioned to Melissa as one of my new interests. Perhaps it was time to actually sign up, rather than just talk about it. After dinner, I cleaned up and then did something I'd been contemplating since Denvery created a profile on a dating app Catherine had recommended for people over 50. Nothing too revealing, just a recent photo from my birthday makeover and a brief description of my interests and what I was looking for. Companionship, conversation, maybe more if the connection was right. It felt strange and a little terrifying, putting myself out there after so many years, but also exhilarating, a concrete step toward the life I wanted. Around 9, I heard Melissa's key in the lock. She entered the kitchen where I was having tea, her expression guarded. Hi, she said stiffly. Hello, did you have dinner? Yeah, with Tyler. She hovered in the doorway, as if unsure whether to stay or retreat to her room. I've been thinking about what you said, she finally continued, about the rent and chores and everything. I waited, not wanting to interrupt whatever she'd prepared to say. I see. I kept my voice neutral. And is that what you want to do? She shrugged, looking younger suddenly. I don't know what I want. Living here is more comfortable than the dorm, but $300 a month is a lot. It is, I agreed. But it's also the reality of housing costs. If not now, then certainly when you graduate in May. She nodded reluctantly. I know. Tyler and I have been looking at apartment prices in Seattle. It's insane. Welcome to adulthood, I said, but gently, without sarcasm. She almost smiled. Yeah. Then after a pause, can I think about it for a few days? About staying here with the new rules, I mean. Of course, you have until the end of the month to decide. She nodded again, then turned to leave. At the doorway, she paused. Mom? Yes? Are you really thinking about dating again? The question surprised me. I am. In fact, I just created a profile on a dating app tonight. Her eyes widened. Seriously? Which one? It's called Silver Singles. Your Aunt Catherine recommended it. Oh my God. She looked torn between horror and fascination. That's... wow. Okay. Just... be careful, I guess. I will be. She disappeared upstairs, and I heard her bedroom door close. The conversation had gone better than I'd expected. She was actually considering my terms rather than outright rejecting them. It was progress. Small, but real. Over the next few days, Melissa and I maintained a cautious politeness. She spent most of her time on campus or at Tyler's, but when she was home, she made small efforts rinsing her dishes, taking out the trash without being asked, texting if she wouldn't be home for dinner. Meanwhile, I continued my own journey of rediscovery. I signed up for a beginner's painting class that met every Wednesday evening. I joined a walking group for women over 50 that explored different parks and nature trails each weekend. And I exchanged messages with several men on the dating app, eventually agreeing to meet one for coffee the following week. I didn't announce these activities to Melissa, but I didn't hide them either. If she asked where I was going, I told her truthfully. Each time, she looked slightly surprised, as if she couldn't quite reconcile this new, independent version of me with the mother she'd known all her life. A week after our confrontation, I arrived home from work to find Melissa sitting at the kitchen table, a notepad in front of her, looking unusually serious. Mom, can we talk? She asked as I set down my purse. Of course. I sat across from her, curious about her formal demeanor. She pushed the notepad toward me. I've been thinking about what you said, about contributing more if I stay here. I made a budget to see if I could afford the rent. I glanced at the neat columns of figure-sure income from the campus bookstore, her current expenses, the additional $300 for rent. She'd also listed potential chores she could take responsibility for, and the 2 nights a week she could commit to family dinner. What do you think? She asked, a hint of vulnerability in her voice. Would this work? I studied the budget more carefully. She'd made some practical adjustments, fewer Starbucks visits, cutting a streaming service subscription, taking on extra shifts at the bookstore. It was thoughtful, realistic. This looks very reasonable, I said, genuinely impressed by her effort. I think it could work well. Relief washed over her face. Okay, good. Because I really do want to stay here. The dorm is so noisy, and the food is terrible, and... She stopped herself. But also, I think you're right. About me needing to contribute more. About us having a more balanced relationship. It was the most mature thing I'd ever heard her say. Thank you, Melissa. That means a lot to me. What's that? The admission stunned me. I hadn't expected such self-awareness from her. And, she continued, I wanted to say I'm sorry, not just for the birthday, but for taking you for granted, for treating this house like a hotel, for not recognizing that you have your own life. Tears pricked at my eyes. Thank you for saying that. She reached across the table and took my hand. I love you, Mom. And I want you to be happy, even if that means dating some random guy from Silver Singles. She made a face, then laughed. Sorry, still getting used to that idea. I laughed too, squeezing her hand. It's new territory for both of us. As we sat there, hands linked across the kitchen table, I felt a shift between us, subtle but significant. For the first time, Melissa was seeing me not just as her mother, but as Eleanor Williams, a woman with her own desires, dreams, and dignity. It was exactly the gift I had wished for on my birthday. And it was worth the wait. The coffee shop buzzed with mid-morning energy, laptop keys clicking, espresso machines hissing, casual conversations creating a comfortable background hum. I sat at a corner table, nervously adjusting my scarf, wondering if this whole thing had been a terrible mistake. Eleanor? I looked up to see a tall man with salt and pepper hair and kind eyes standing beside my table. Robert Peterson, my first date in nearly 7 years, looked exactly like his profile picture, a rarity in online dating, according to Catherine. Yes, hello. I stood, suddenly unsure of the proper greeting protocol. A handshake seemed too formal, a hug too familiar. We ended up doing an awkward half wave at each other before he sat down across from me. It's nice to meet you in person, he said, his voice warm and slightly deeper than I'd imagined from our messages. Can I get you another coffee? I'm fine for now, thank you. I wrapped my hands around my half-full cup, grateful for something to do with them. So, you're a nurse? He asked after ordering his own coffee. That must be rewarding work. And just like that, we fell into conversation. Robert was a high school history teacher, widowed 5 years ago after 30 years of marriage. He had 2 adult children and a new granddaughter he clearly adored, showing me several photos on his phone. He asked thoughtful questions about my work, listened attentively to my answers, and made me laugh with stories about teenage history students. They think anything before smartphones is ancient history? He said, eyes crinkling with humor. I once mentioned using a payphone in college, and a student asked if that was before electricity was invented. I'd like that, I said, surprised by how much I meant it. Walking to my car afterward, I felt a lightness I hadn't experienced in years. Not because Robert was necessarily the one, it was far too soon to think in those terms, but because I'd taken a step toward a fuller life. I'd put myself out there, had an enjoyable conversation with an interesting man, and proven to myself that I wasn't defined solely by my roles as mother and nurse. When I arrived home, Melissa's car was in the driveway. According to our new arrangement, today was one of our family dinner nights. I found her in the kitchen, attempting to make stir-fry, a look of intense concentration on her face as she consulted a recipe on her phone. How's it coming along? I asked, setting down my purse. She looked up, relief washing over her face. Oh good, you're home. Does this sauce look right to you? It seems too thick. I peered into the pan. Add a bit more broth, and maybe a splash of rice vinegar. She followed my suggestion, then gave me a sidelong glance. So, how was your date? It was nice. We're having dinner next weekend. Wow, second date already. Must have gone well. Her tone was light, but I detected a hint of something else beneath it, not quite disapproval, but uncertainty. It did. Robert is easy to talk to. I began helping her chop vegetables. How was your day? Good. I got an A on my marketing presentation. She expertly flipped the contents of the pan. And I paid the first month's rent. It's on your dresser. Thank you. The words were simple, but they represented a significant change in our relationship. It had been 3 weeks since our confrontation, and true to her word, Melissa had stepped up paying rent, doing her assigned chores, joining me for dinner twice a week as agreed. There had been adjustments, of course. She'd forgotten to clean the bathroom one week, leaving me to discover it the morning I had guests coming over. She'd been late with dinner preparations another time because she'd lost track of time studying. But overall, she was trying, and I appreciated the effort. As we sat down to eat, the stir-fry slightly overcooked but tasty nonetheless, Melissa surprised me with a question. Mom, do you think I'm selfish? I set down my fork, considering how to respond honestly without being hurtful. I think you've been accustomed to putting yourself first, which is natural when you're young. But I've seen real growth in you these past few weeks. She nodded slowly, pushing rice around her plate. Tyler said something the other day that bothered me. We were talking about moving to Seattle, and I mentioned being worried about leaving you alone. He said, "Since when do you care about that?" Like it was weird that I would consider your feelings. The revelation stung, but I kept my expression neutral. "And what did you say to that?" I told him that was a crappy thing to say. That of course I care about you. She looked up, her eyes troubled. But then I started thinking. Maybe he said it because that's how I've been acting. Like I don't care. Melissa, I've been thinking a lot about what you said. About me treating this place like a hotel. About taking you for granted. And you were right. I've been selfish. I forgot your 60th birthday because I was too busy partying. What kind of daughter does that? One who's still learning how to balance her own life with caring for others, I said gently. It's a skill that takes practice. Well, I'm trying to get better at it. She met my gaze directly. And I want you to know that if you and Robert get serious, I'm okay with it. I mean, it's still kind of weird to think about my mom dating, but you deserve to be happy. The simple statement, delivered with such earnestness, brought tears to my eyes. Thank you, sweetheart. That means a lot to me. She smiled, then returned to her dinner. Just don't expect me to call him Dad or anything. I laughed, the tension broken. I think we're a long way from that. As we continued eating, sharing stories about our respective days, I marveled at the transformation in our relationship. The painful confrontation after my birthday had led to something I hadn't dared hope for: a more mature, balanced connection with my daughter. Over the next few weeks, this new dynamic continued to evolve. Melissa kept her commitments, occasionally even exceeding them, like the Saturday she deep-cleaned the kitchen without being asked, or the night she invited me to join her and Tyler for dinner at a new restaurant. Meanwhile, my relationship with Robert progressed slowly but pleasantly. We went to dinner, to a museum exhibit, to a community theater production. He was kind, intelligent, and respectful of my space and independence. We were taking things at a pace that felt comfortable for both of Ustwo people with established lives, finding ways to weave them together without sacrificing who we were individually. My other new activities brought unexpected joy as well. The painting class awakened a creativity I'd forgotten I possessed. My first attempts were clumsy, but by the fourth class, I'd produced a landscape that my instructor deemed showing real promise. The walking group introduced me to women with similar life experience: empty nesters, divorcees, widows, all navigating this new phase of life with humor and resilience. 6 weeks after my birthday, Melissa burst into the house one evening while I was preparing dinner, her face flushed with excitement. "Mom, Tyler got the job in Seattle. They want him to start in January." I set down the knife I'd been using to chop onions, wiping my hands on a towel. "That's wonderful news. Congratulations to him." "Thanks." She dropped her backpack on a chair and leaned against the counter. "It's a great opportunity. The salary is even higher than he expected, and they're offering relocation assistance." "That's excellent." I kept my voice steady, though my heart had begun to race. This was the moment I'd been dreading since she first mentioned Seattle, the reality of my only child moving across the country. "Have you thought about what this means for you?" Relief washed over me, not because she was staying a few more months, though that was nice, but because she'd made a decision prioritizing her education over following her boyfriend immediately. It showed maturity, forethought. "I think that's a wise choice," I said. "Long distance isn't easy, but it's only for a semester." "Exactly, and it gives me time to line up job interviews in Seattle, maybe even secure a position before moving." She hesitated. "It also gives us more time together before I go. If that's okay with you." "Of course it's okay. This is your home for as long as you need it." I smiled at her. Though I expect rent to continue. Young lady. She laughed. I figured. Actually, I was thinking, maybe we could plan a trip together before I move? Nothing fancy, just a long weekend somewhere. A mother-daughter thing. The suggestion caught me off guard. I'd love that. Great. Let's look at dates soon. She grabbed an apple from the fruit bowl. I promised Tyler I'd call him back with my decision. We'll talk more at dinner? I nodded, watching as she bounded upstairs, her energy infectious. When had my self-centered daughter become this thoughtful young woman who considered my feelings, who wanted to spend time with me before a big life transition? The transformation seemed almost too good to be true. And as it turned out, it was. The following week, I was folding laundry in my bedroom when I heard Melissa come home. Her footsteps paused outside my door, then continued to her room. A few minutes later, I heard her on the phone, her voice low but clear enough to carry through the wall. I know, it's only for a few more months. Because I need to finish my degree, Tyler. We've been over this. Yes, I'm still paying rent, it's ridiculous. No, I can't just stop, she'd flip out. I froze, the half-folded towel in my hand suddenly heavy. Of course I'm still coming to Seattle. Nothing's changed. I just need to play nice until then. Keep the peace, you know? Yeah, exactly. It's easier this way. She's been so weird lately with all these new rules. The words hit me like physical blows. Play nice? Keep the peace? All the changes I'd seen in Melissa's responsibility, the consideration, the apparent maturity had they been an act? A performance to make these last months at home easier before she escaped to Seattle? I sat heavily on the edge of my bed, the laundry forgotten. Part of me wanted to confront her immediately, to demand the truth. But another part held back, wanting to observe, to see if this was a momentary frustration or her genuine perspective. Over the next few days, I watched Melissa carefully, looking for signs that would confirm or refute what I'd overheard. She continued to fulfill her obligations paying rent, doing chores, joining me for our agreed-upon dinners. But now I noticed small things. The way her smile sometimes seemed forced, how she checked her phone when she thought I wasn't looking during our conversations, the relief that flashed across her face when our dinners ended. Was I being paranoid? Overanalyzing normal behavior? Or had I been fooling myself, seeing what I wanted to see rather than the reality? The answer came unexpectedly the following Sunday. I was at the grocery store when I ran into Justin, one of Melissa's friends from high school. He was home from college for the weekend, helping his mother shop. Mrs. Williams, great to see you, he said, giving me a quick hug. How are you? I'm well, Justin. How's school going? Good, busy. One more semester until graduation. He grinned. Can't wait. Oh, I hear Melissa's moving to Seattle after graduation. That's exciting. Yes. Her boyfriend got a job there. She must be thrilled to get out of your house finally. She's been complaining about the prison rules for weeks in our group chat. My smile froze. Prison rules? Justin's expression shifted as he realized his mistake. Oh, you know Melissa. She exaggerates. I'm sure it's not that bad. What exactly did she say, Justin? My voice was calm, but inside, my heart was pounding. He looked desperately uncomfortable. Just, something about having to pay rent and do chores and have family dinners. Nothing major. I see. I managed to keep my composure. Well, it was nice seeing you. Tell your mother hello for me. I abandoned my half-filled cart and drove home in a daze, Justin's words echoing in my mind. Prison rules. Complaining for weeks. All while smiling to my face, acting as if she understood and accepted the changes in our relationship. When I arrived home, Melissa was in the kitchen making a sandwich. She looked up with a smile that now seemed hollow. Hey Mom, I thought you were grocery shopping. I was. I set my purse on the counter. I ran into Justin. Oh cool, how is he? He mentioned something interesting, Apparently, you've been complaining to your friends about living under prison rules here. The color drained from her face. He said that? Yes, he did. I kept my voice level, though anger and hurt were building inside me. Is that how you really feel, Melissa? That basic adult responsibilities are prison rules? That was just venting. You know how it is. She set down her sandwich. I didn't mean anything by it. I also overheard you on the phone with Tyler last week, talking about how you just need to play nice and keep the peace until you can escape to Seattle. Her eyes widened. You were eavesdropping on me? I was folding laundry in my room. You weren't exactly whispering. I crossed my arms. So which is it, Melissa? Have you actually matured and accepted responsibility, or have you been putting on an act to make these last months easier? She looked cornered, her eyes darting around as if seeking an escape route. Finally, her shoulders slumped. It's not that simple. Explain it to me then. She sighed heavily. Look, yes, I complained to my friends. The rent thing feels unfair when I'm already paying for a dorm room I'm not using. And the chores and family dinners are annoying sometimes when I have other things I want to do. So you've been lying to me. Not lying exactly. Just not always saying how I really feel. She met my gaze. But I have been doing everything you asked. I've paid rent, done my chores, shown up for dinner. Actions without the right attitude behind them are just performance, Melissa. If you resent every minute of it, what's the point? The point is, I'm still doing it. Her voice rose. Isn't that what adulting is? Doing things you don't want to do because you have to? The question caught me off guard. There was a kernel of truth in it. Adulthood did involve responsibilities that weren't always pleasant, but there was more to it than that. Part of being an adult is understanding why those responsibilities matter, I said finally. It's about contributing to a household because you're a member of it, not because someone's forcing you. It's about seeing family dinners as an opportunity for connection, not an obligation to endure. She looked away. Well, maybe I'm not there yet. Clearly not. The disappointment was crushing. All the progress I thought we'd made, all the growth I'd seen in Harriet had been an illusion. I appreciate your honesty, at least. So what now? She asked, a defensive edge to her voice. Are you kicking me out because I complained to my friends? No, Melissa. I'm not kicking you out. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. But I am changing the terms of our agreement. What does that mean? It means that since living here is such a burden for you, I'm releasing you from our family dinner obligation. You no longer need to pretend to enjoy my company twice a week. Mom? I'm not finished. You'll continue paying rent and doing your chores, because that's the bare minimum for living in this house. But I won't force interaction that you clearly resent. That's not fair. I never said I resent spending time with you. Actions speak louder than words, Melissa. And your actions complaining to friends, counting down the days until you can leave tell me everything I need to know. She looked stricken. So that's it? You're just going to shut me out for the next few months? I'm giving you what you apparently wantless obligation to me. I picked up my purse. I need to go back to the grocery store since I left without buying anything. We can talk more later if you want. I walked out, leaving her standing in the kitchen. In the car, I finally allowed the tears to fall, tears of disappointment, of hurt, but also of clarity. I had been so eager to believe in Melissa's transformation that I'd ignored the signs it wasn't genuine. I'd wanted so badly for her to see me as a person, worthy of consideration, that I'd accepted the performance without questioning its authenticity. When I returned from the store an hour later, Melissa's car was gone. She didn't come home that night, or the next. She texted only to say she was staying with Emma for a few days, to give us both space. I threw myself into my other activities: work, painting class, walking group, dates with Robert. I kept busy, tried not to dwell on the rift with Melissa. But the hurt lingered, a dull ache beneath everything else. On Wednesday evening, as I was gathering my supplies for painting class, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Melissa standing there, looking tired and uncertain. Can I come in? She asked quietly. I stepped aside, allowing her to enter. We stood awkwardly in the foyer for a moment before moving to the living room. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she began, sitting on the edge of the sofa. About what you said, about what being an adult really means. I remained silent, waiting. Emma's parents charge her brother rent too, and he has chores. I didn't know that until I stayed there and saw it firsthand. She twisted her hands in her lap. I guess I thought you were being unusually strict, but maybe it's just normal. It is normal, I confirmed. Adults contribute to the households they live in. She nodded slowly. I also realized something else. When I complained to my friends about the prison rules, none of them actually agreed with me. Justin said his mom would have charged him rent too if he lived at home after freshman year. Tyler said his older brother pays his parents $500 a month more than you're asking from me. I see. So maybe. She took a deep breath. Maybe I've been the unreasonable one. Not you. The admission surprised me. That's insightful of you to recognize. I'm sorry, Mom. For complaining behind your back. For resenting things I shouldn't have. For not appreciating everything you do for me. Her eyes filled with tears. And I'm really sorry about missing your birthday. That was inexcusable. And I've felt horrible about it ever since. The apology seemed genuine this time, her remorse palpable. But I'd been fooled before. Thank you for saying that, I said carefully. I appreciate the apology. I want to do better, she continued. Not just pretending, but actually being better. Being more considerate. More responsible. She wiped at her eyes. I don't want to leave for Seattle with things broken between us. I felt my resolve softening, but caution remained. Words are easy, Melissa. It's consistent actions that matter. I know. That's why I'm not asking you to believe me right now. I'm asking for the chance to prove it to you, day by day, until I leave. She reached for my hand. Including family dinners, real ones, where I'm fully present. I looked at my daughter, this complex young woman, who could be selfish one moment and surprisingly insightful the next, who was still learning, still growing, still figuring out who she wanted to be. Okay, I said finally. One day at a time. She smiled, relief washing over her face. Thank you. As I prepared to leave for my painting class, Melissa asked if she could come along sometime, just to watch. The request, small but meaningful, suggested she was genuinely trying to show interest in my life. I'd like that, I told her. Next week, perhaps. In the months that followed, our relationship found a new equilibrium, not perfect, but authentic. Melissa had good days and bad days in her journey toward greater maturity. Sometimes she fell into old patterns of self-absorption, but she caught herself more quickly, made amends more sincerely. And I continued my own journey of self-rediscovery. My relationship with Robert deepened gradually. My painting improved enough that my instructor suggested I consider showing my work in a community art fair. My circle of friends expanded through the walking group and other activities. When May arrived and graduation approached, I found myself both dreading and accepting Melissa's impending move to Seattle. We had used these months well, building a stronger foundation for our adult relationship. We had learned to see each other more clearly, me as a woman with her own identity beyond motherhood. Her as a young adult with growing awareness of others' needs. The night before she left, we sat on the back porch with glasses of wine, watching the sunset. Melissa had spent the day packing the last of her belongings into her car for the cross-country drive to her new life with Tyler. I'm nervous, she admitted, swirling the wine in her glass. About Seattle, about living with Tyler, about finding a job. That's natural, I assured her. New beginnings are always a little scary. Were you scared? When you had me? The question caught me by surprise. Terrified. I was only 20 when you were born. I had no idea what I was doing. She smiled. You figured it out pretty well. I made plenty of mistakes, including not teaching you about responsibility earlier. I took a sip of wine. But we got there eventually. We did. She turned to face me fully. Thank you, Mom, for not giving up on me, for pushing me to be better. That's what mothers do. Not all mothers. She reached over and squeezed my hand. I'm going to miss you. But Seattle isn't the end of the world. We'll visit each other. Talk often. And you'll keep me updated on you and Robert? She teased. To my surprise, she had grown to like him over these months, even joining us occasionally for dinner or movies. Of course. Though don't expect any dramatic announcements. We're taking things very slowly. I know. But you seem happy with him. I am. I smiled, thinking of how my life had expanded since my 60th birthday. New relationships, new interests, new confidence. I'm happy with a lot of things these days. As darkness fell around us, I reflected on the journey that had begun with a forgotten birthday and my subsequent decision to finally put myself first. It hadn't been easy. There had been painful confrontations, difficult truths, necessary adjustments. But sitting here with my daughter on the eve of her departure, I knew it had been worth it. The gift I had given myself, the courage to demand respect, to pursue my own happiness, to redefine our relationship, had ultimately been a gift to Melissa as well. It had pushed her toward greater maturity, toward seeing me as a complete person rather than simply, Mom. And that was a birthday present worth waiting for.